Hello there, welcome back to another Reddit Stories video. This is Ramona, and this is the Smell of Logic channel. Before we get started on this last part here, the Paranormal Workplace Stories, Part 4. If you enjoy coloring or reading or paper dolls, please go check out my Amazon authors page. There's a link in the description of every single video. It'll take you over there, and you can pick and choose what you like and what you don't like, I guess, too. But anyway, here we go, getting into this last part, number 4, story number 1. I used to work in aged care. I mostly worked from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and would often experience hauntings. Things like call buttons going off in empty rooms, curtains opening by themselves, lights going on and off, residents seeing loved ones in the 24 hours before they passed, smelling the perfume of the past resident on her usual route from her room to the dining room. A few times seeing residents sitting in the bare spot at the dining table or in the common areas, shadow people, recliner chairs that had been left upright when they were found in a reclining position, a wheelchair that belonged to a past lady who had moved from the wheelchair to the storage room just outside of her own room. Story 2. I've seen things. Well, haunted or just past residents. I walked into the care home one morning to start my shift, and as soon as I entered, I heard Mabel say, "Don't laugh, I'm dead." I arrived at my desk and asked the night nurse, the shift changed, nights go off and days coming on, if Mabel was still alive, as she had uh, been failing rapidly. And the nurse looked at me confused and said, "Of course she was. I just checked on her." The day nurse was watching our interaction and grabbed her stethoscope and went in to check. She came back and said Mabel was gone and had been for quite a while. She asked me to sit with her while the family was called in, so I did. While I was in there, a male resident wandered in, naked, and I heard her again say, "I said, don't laugh, I'm dead." It was not hard to giggle. And in the healthcare aide, I was an administrative assistant, not in charge of care at all. Came in to dress her before the family arrived. The HCA grabbed her red nightie, and Mabel screeched, "Not that one, the green one." So I related to HCA and said, "That's so, Mabel." Other dietary and housekeeping staff reported being tapped while using the big floor cleaning machine at night. Story 3. Let's start with some background. I have worked for 1.5 years at the hospital as a service attendant assistant. I've worked with DS, day shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., evening shift, 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., and night shift, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. During the DS, we typically have around 50 to 90 people in the service department. During ES, there are about 15 people, of whom 10 are responsible for cooking from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. During NS, there's only 2 of us. It's no secret that you experience the most during the late evening and early morning hours, and my oh my, I've seen a lot during my 1.5 years I've worked there. There are 2 departments known for being haunted. Departments 12 to 3 and are 12-3 and 28-1. Both are outpatient departments, which means they are cleaned either in the evening or at night and are always where most of the stuff happens. Department 12-3, when I first started, had an evening shift training shift near Morton. It was the 3rd shift, so we all decided to split up. Morton took the active 24-hour departments, as they were the busiest, and I was assigned 3 sleeping outpatient departments, as well as 1 closed department, which had been shut down because many patients became drastically and quickly more seriously ill. We call it Department 12-3. Morton told me to remember that, no matter what, there's a quote from him. If you hear something on 12-3, no, you didn't. If you smell something on 12-3, no, you didn't. If you see something on 12-3, no, you didn't. If you hear someone, whether you know it to be the voice or not, calling you, no, you didn't. Leave the department immediately. Don't look back and stay calm. Go to the opposite direction of the voice. Of course, this was very unsettling to hear when I had to go up to that very department alone. After cleaning half the department, I suddenly heard a knocking sound from one of the rooms, and I kept working without reacting because if you hear something, it's only a coincidence. After all, you didn't. As I was finishing 4 rooms, I suddenly heard Morton call me and saying he needed my help in Department 14-2. I remember that he had said, stayed calm, and left the department quietly, taking the elevator down to the 2nd floor. I paged Morton, which we always used to contact each other during the shift, and asked if he had been in 12-3, and called me and also asked if he needed help in 14-2. Morton was silent for a while and said, "If I needed help, I would have paged you, but you didn't respond, right?" Morton sounded clearly concerned, but I reassured him that I hadn't answered and had just left the department quietly, putting my cleaning cart in place so everything seemed normal. Morton replied that he was glad to hear that and said that we were done in the room, done for the night in 12-3. Let's report to DB that we missed 4 rooms. To this day, I still don't know what's up with 12-3. I know I've experienced it many times during the evening and night shifts, and I will never go back there, either as staff or a patient. Department 12-4 on the same evening on the previous story, I had to clean in Department 12-14, which is the department just across from 12-13. This department was special. Here, the service staff must also check the surveillance footage during the afternoon and evening hours. As I sat there, checking the surveillance, I got chills running down my spine. I jokingly filmed the screen of the surveillance system, as it's pretty unnerving to sit alone in a closed apartment and watch the footage. To my great shock, I saw someone walking around in the waiting room of the footage. I even caught it on video, but the quality was blurry in the seconds leading up to it, and during the moment the person was walking around apartment 28-1. During my evening shift, I had to clean 28-1, a department notorious for being extremely haunted. It's a department where, even during the day, staff feel uneasy about being there. It's a locked apartment after 3 p.m., and unlike other outpatient departments, you need both a key and a code to gain entry. There's no medicine or anything valuable there, but it's a department that no one wants to be in. Extra security has been added because the door was often opened by itself when patients or staff were walking past, even though the door was locked. I had to go in and clean, unlocking the door with both the key card and the code. What's special about outpatient departments is that you don't turn on the lights when they come in to clean in the evening to avoid patients thinking the department is open and wandering in. Anyway, I was in my world cleaning, and during our evening shifts, we were allowed to listen to music through headphones, which I was doing that evening. There's a room 11, that never gets cleaned. No matter how many times you go in to clean, the door is always locked again. It sounds like things are being knocked over and thrown around inside. When you open the door again, there's paper, trash, and all sorts of things scattered all over the room. It's just a room you don't want to be in because there's an incredibly uncomfortable feeling, and you feel like you're being watched. Additionally, you hear strange sounds throughout the department, such as footsteps running down the hallway, objects being thrown, knocking on doors and windows, and a general sense of being watched. I can't fully explain what's going on in that department, but it's not a nice place to be, and we all agree on that. Additionally, there's an elevator door leading to it, which can only be opened after 3 p.m. with both a code and a key card. The service department's office is 2 floors above 28-1, so you often take the elevator down from the office and up to that office. One night, when I was about to start my night shift, I went up to the clock on the schedule and then took the elevator down to the ground floor. The door usually opens outward to the main hallway, but this night it also opened inward to 28-1. I heard a voice saying, "Come right in." The door to the hallway wouldn't open, so I kept pressing it until the door to 28-1 closed and the hallway door finally opened. Story 4. I worked on a haunted NSF. I was walking the hallway and saw one of my patients standing at the TV, pressing the remote control, always looking for game shows. She was a large woman, always wearing a large orange or pink t-shirt, and she always used a walker. I saw that she didn't have her walker with her, so I turned and set my lunch down on the floor so I could help her into bed. When I entered the room, it was empty. No sheets in the bed, no identifying belongings, so I went to the nurses' stations and told them that X was wandering the halls without her walker. The nurse proceeded to tell me that X had died over the weekend, and that the TV in her room kept turning on by itself. Story 5. I actually have one of Morton's stories about 2313 and his permission to share it. Here it goes. Morton was working at the hospital for 40 years. When he was a young guy, he was assigned to 12-3. At that time, it wasn't widely known or discussed that the department was haunted. The department, which back then was an outpatient clinic, needed cleaning. It was Morton's first solo shift. He was on 12-3, cleaning as he should, when suddenly he heard his supervisor calling him from one of the rooms. When he went in, he saw a tall, lanky figure in the corner of the room wearing a top hat, similar to a magician's hat. He asked if he could help the man, and in the same instant the man vanished, and the door slammed shut behind him. He tried to open the door, but couldn't, so Morton ended up paging one of the porters, Claus to come and help him out. Claus said as he arrived, the lights were flickering along the whole hallway, but Morton and Claus had walked back out and the lights were off. Claus returned to the reporter station, and Morton continued cleaning in 13A, or 13-3. The entire time he felt like he was being watched and heard whispering several times. The following month, during a team meeting, Morton shared his experience, and everyone on the evening shift reported similar incidences on their 12-3 shift. That's when it started to become widely known of the strange things happening there at night and in the evening. Within a year, they had collectively established some guidelines to keep everyone safe up there. This is now a standard part of training when even starting evening or night shifts. If you see, hear, or smell something, no, you didn't. If you hear someone calling your name, leave the department immediately, calmly and quietly. Everyone takes it seriously, and when training new staff, they pass on this information. Story 6. I also just remembered the first time I was training. After I had been there for 6 months, I was assigned to train a new night shift colleague, Amelia. We went through the usual routine with her, but she mentioned that she didn't quite feel comfortable with it. I told her that she could wait outside the department instead, which she preferred. However, she eventually regretted it, and since then our training procedures have been updated. She stood outside room 12-3 and could hear sounds from inside multiple times. Some of the noises were indeed just me with the cleaning equipment, but she also heard knocking sounds on the glass near where she was standing. She started to get scared and called out for me, but I didn't respond. During training, the only person conducting the training had the pager, so there was no way for her to reach me. She stayed there, waiting, and grew increasingly frightened. She heard the knocking on the window again, looked inside, and saw a figure with dark spaces where eyes should have been, just empty blackness. At this point, Amelia was really scared and decided to run down the hallway from room 12-3, headed to the porter station, and there she waited for me. When I finished up and came out, she was gone. I paged one of the porters to see if they might have seen her, and they told me that she was down at the porter station, shaking and sipping a cup of hot cocoa. When I went down there, she asked me what was in that room. I told her I didn't know, but you get used to it. As long as you keep your fear in check and follow the precautions, nothing will happen. Story 7. When I was in high school in Maine, I used to go to a private school in Bangor. John Baptist was a private school that had been around for a very long time. I had my experience in the auditorium. To give you an idea of the auditorium's layout, the main doors open into the auditorium, which is quite old. Sorry. It figures stained glass windows and rows of ancient wooden chairs facing the stage. Has a balcony seating also. My experience happened one day after theater class. We had been practicing for the play Grease. Practice had run late, and we finished up around 11 p.m. My friend David and I were going around making sure everything was put away and the doors were closed. As we came back to the stage, we noticed someone up in the balcony. We were saying to each other, "Who is that?" Because we were the last ones in the auditorium. Everyone else had left. Mr. Reed had gone back to the classroom. There was a blond-haired kid wearing the purple and white leather jacket to the school. David yelled at him that the auditorium was closed and that we were leaving, and he had to go. He just kept sitting there looking at us. He said nothing. I then said we were leaving, so it's time to go. Still he said nothing or moved, just watching us. By that time we were getting creeped out. I had David find Mr. Reed while I stayed there. The whole time he was going, this person and I were just looking at each other. After what seemed like an eternity, Dave and Mr. Reed came to the doors. Mr. Reed asked what was going on, and replied that someone was up on the balcony. So he looked up. There was no one there. In the seconds it took for me to look at Mr. Reed and then look back up, he had disappeared. Mr. Reed thought we were joking, but after we told him we were serious, we all went up to the balcony to see if anyone was there. Naturally, there was no one there, but the chair he was sitting on was still down. That freaked us all out. After a thorough search of the balcony and the rest of the auditorium to ensure that we were there, we decided to leave. It was past midnight at this point, so we turned the lights out, locked the doors, and left. After that, I researched the school's history. Did find out that a student had committed suicide up in the auditorium after his girlfriend had broken up with him. I'm not sure when or why, but it didn't really say. He was so solid looking. After finding this out, I went into the auditorium a week or so later and said out loud, "Sorry for what happened to you, and I hope you enjoy the show." Figured he was there to watch the show. We performed the show for a whole house, and if he was there, I hope he enjoyed it. That is my story. I would love to hear yours. Please share. Story 8. 17 years ago, my dad worked at as a night shift janitor for a high school. He was the only person in the school at night. One night, he took a voice recorder to work. He entered the shop room, where he always had an eerie feeling, and laid the voice recorder down on one of the tables. Then he said out loud, "Is there anyone else here? Does anyone have anything they want to say?" He stated that he was leaving the voice recorder and leaving the room. My dad then left the room. He came back an hour later to pick up the voice recorder. When my dad arrived home later that night, he listened to what was recorded on the recorder. I was sitting in the chair next to him as he played the tape. Listening to the voice recorder, I heard my dad walk out of the shop room, and the shop door closed behind him, and then it was silent for about 15 seconds. 15 seconds after my dad left the room, I heard someone run heavily over to the recorder, smash something down on the table next to it, which made a loud noise, as if someone had slammed both their hands down on the table, followed by a deafening and angry growl or yell. It sounded downright demonic. My dad then stopped the tape and threw it away. It really freaked him out. He gave his 2 weeks' notice after that day. Story 9. While in high school, I was alone in the women's dressing rooms in the theater late one night, likely after a show. There was no one else in there with me. My boyfriend was somewhere in the theater's sound booth. One of the dressing room bathroom doors squeaked open and then closed. I dashed out to see if anyone was there. Nope. Ran into the stage and could see him still in the second booth at the top of the auditorium. There was no one in the auditorium or school but us. Story 10. I attended an all-girls Catholic high school from the well, it says 1860. I don't know if they meant 1960s, which is attached to a convent. Everything was preserved very well. It felt like it was a beautiful, spooky mini Hogwarts. Our auditorium was located on the top floor, approximately 2 floors above ground level. It was gorgeously creepy, with things in Latin painted in gold, decorative elements above the stage, and big maroon velvet curtains on the windows. Teenage girls can lose things a lot and be dramatic, but I trust the encounters of my very logical, responsible, school-oriented friends. Between 2006 and 2010, most of the girls acquired cell phones for the first time. My friends and I would come in the next day and talk about losing their phones or scripts for the play, then finding them in odd places. There was a former boarding school student who jumped from the catwalk right outside the auditorium and died in the late 1800s. I think she just wanted to play with the girls' phones and have some fun. There was also a gray nun bopping around that had a very different vibe. Gray nuns were a separate order of nuns from the Sisters of Charity nuns currently inhabiting and teaching at the school. Gray nuns hadn't been around campus for decades. The gray nun would mostly hang out on the third-floor library and the main floor's hallway that led to the convent. Beyond the everyday things that happened in the old buildings, big heavy doors would move, objects would fall, and lights would flicker. Whether something visual happened or not, there was still the vibe. I remember the feeling of a more vicious air flowing through into my English classroom from the door, with the teacher's eyes widening. The girls all went quiet, and our whole energy just went from excited teenage girls to all sitting there quietly and looking at each other. Then the teacher said, "Well," then just continued with the lesson. Maybe we were too enthusiastic about the Canterbury Tales, and Sis had us to set us straight. I'll also never forget the one experience that felt like it was a full minute or two of a big study hall in the main floor. All 3 sets of oversized double doors slammed shut and violently at the same time, and the giant windows shook for a while. The nun running the study hall, Sister Mary Agnes, was extremely confused. There was no wind. I recall her slowly approaching the double doors to open them again and inspecting. WTF could have happened. The old boarding school portion of the school was also converted to an art, photography, and dance section of the school. The plumbing to the old bathrooms and showers had been disconnected years ago. Girls would hear showers and sinks running, toilets flushing, but nothing was connected. The different locker areas of the 4 grades on the basement floor were the weirdest, creepiest, though. All the other experiences made some sense. I don't even know what was up with the sophomore locker room in the back cove of the basement. Never nailed it down. Knew not to be there for too long. Sometimes a nun would pop out of the storage area, boiler room, and freak us out, then request manual labor. Ha ha. I don't know what business they had down there. They must have Febrezed the basement with holy water to protect us from whatever was going on. Beside the basement, everyone's sentiment was to protect us from whatever was going on. Besides the basement, everyone was on the little spooks that knew about the little spooks was on there, said they were fun and they were buddies. Easy to do with confidence if you're in a comment full of ladies honing in on Baby J and Big M all hours of the day. Story 11. The place was defo haunted. One night, like to fall on the center stage. It would be lethal if it hit anyone. The school was 100+ years old, and supposedly someone had died from falling from the light at some point. There were creepy tunnels under the school that we explored after hours. My boyfriend had a set of keys to operate the sound booths and lights for shows, and we could be there on weekends and after hours. Ah, the 90s. There was also an actor, a few years older than me, who, while playing Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar, had a psychotic break and thought he was really JC. So there you go. Some rather interesting, entertaining paranormal, supernatural stories. Hope you liked this video. If you did, leave a like or maybe subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Go check out another video, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, and bye.